When I see the list of the top 10, top 20 festivals, music festivals in the US, it's almost always on the list.
It felt great, like everybody was having fun, we were having fun.
It sort of signifies the beginning of the summer. It's the event of the summer.
Well, that's the lift to get up to this level, right?
Yeah, you build it.
We were looking at the lack of outdoor programming in general in this market. As we all know, this is long winters from time to time in Boston. So we were thinking, hey, if we put an event together that was like celebrating, when the nice weather comes and a reason for everybody to get together, and try to build it as like an annual thing as opposed to a one-off. That was really what our focus was when we started.
I felt like we spoke about it forever, right? But it wasn't until it's like, okay, we got our lease signed, okay, we're quitting our jobs, okay, we are now doing Boston Calling.
Was there a sense of, if you build it, they will come when you were planning all this?
No. we wanted to build it and we hoped they would come, but yes, it was unfamiliar. Certainly there was a perception of, okay, and people didn't really understand it because there was not a lot of exposure to it. What a music festival, I don't understand.
I can't think of anything that had this kind of variety when I was growing up. They used to do a couple of concerts that would have, 2 or 3 bands, but the idea that you would literally have more than 10 acts over the course of 3 or 4 days with stages operating at the same time on the same basic sort of campus, that just didn't happen.
One of the trickier things is getting talent, especially when you're a first-time festival. One of the earliest meetings that we had was with a guy named Aaron Dessner, who's the guitarist and one of the founders of the band The National. His point of view was, I love Boston. Every time we go and play Boston, we sell more tickets than in any other market, and I'm in. So he came on board with us as a curator of the festival, and The National was also the first band that signed on to play.
It's around the world. We have people coming from Australia this year. We have people coming from Alaska. It's really interesting to see, and it's always a few tickets, meaning like they're traveling with their friends. And hopefully they're gonna do a lot for Boston and tourism. They'll stay for a while.
You have college kids, you have entirety of New England, that is so familiar with coming down and going to a Sox game. We just hoped if we could latch onto that routine and have it be music and have it be in a location like City Hall Plaza, we could easily launch it as a brand.
This was the venue that we were most interested in at the time. We spent a lot of time with the mayor's office, Department of Tourism and Special Events, looking at other potential sites in the city, but we just felt it was critically important that we were in the city limits, that it was T accessible, and that we weren't like on the far reaches on the outskirts of town that would make it challenging for people to get to. Mayor Menino at that time, had been mayor for multiple decades. He had no reason to take a risk on something like this. He could have very easily just said, great idea, we wish you the best of luck, it's just not for us, but he was willing to do it.
He came out for the first Boston Calling, I believe, and grabbed the microphone and welcomed, everybody to his backyard as he, was so used to doing.
The first time I attended Boston Calling, I went as a fan. Because I think like a lot of people, we were excited about the opportunities presented by an enormous music festival in the middle of downtown Boston. I remember having this moment seeing 2 of my favorite bands, Built to Spill and Modest Mouse. And here we were in the middle of City Hall Plaza, surrounded by 20,000 people, the lights sort of bouncing off of the buildings. And I sort of had this moment where I was like, something really special is going on right now.
I liked the City Hall thing because it felt like, Boston. It felt like we was at the crib, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all used to be around that area a lot. I feel like if you went to high school in Boston, you ended up downtown like every day. You know, my family's from here too, so when they see, he's in downtown, like he's right there, like we could take the train over there. I think that's really cool too. It's just a pride thing. It went so fast. It was super fast. It felt like I did like 2 songs. I was up there for a grip. When it's fun like that, it really just, it's over.
It wasn't till, you know, everybody was gone and this place was dark. You're like, wow, we really, you know, got welcomed into the city. We finished this. You know, now all we have to do is sort of clean up and we're allowed to do it again. That was awesome.
You could feel that it was tight, especially when the headliner would go on and we were at max capacity. So we just felt like we had to eventually get more acreage somewhere else. But man, when it was bumping, you know, on those busy days.
I think once we did it once, it was kind of always in the back of our heads that like this should be bigger, it should be longer. You know, it started as 2 days, it ended up going to a 3rd day while we were on the plaza. So I think kind of from the start it was, all right, we know what we did and we know how we did it, and it should absolutely be bigger.
We were a little bit nervous, I think, when it moved to the Harvard Athletic Complex because it was that it might change the feeling of the festival. And in some ways it has. It's much bigger now. They have much bigger acts. We had, you know, Eminem performing in the Northeast for the first time in I think 10 years. You can't do that at City Hall Plaza. I think you need a much bigger festival to contain something like that.
The plaza was right around 6 acres, you know, with a building sort of in the middle. This is 14 acres, 2.5 times the size, which allows us to stretch out.
So technically, we're still in Boston. This is Alston, and you know, when we were looking for a new home, we didn't want to go to the suburbs or, you know, out to the country. It was really important to us that we stayed right in the city limits.
I liked the Harvard location because of how big and spacious it was. Like, it felt like a festival ground. Like I've done a bunch of festivals now, and like it felt more like the golf carting around the back of the festival, and like take me to this stage, take me to that stage, and then you go here and you can see this person, and there's like food carts lined up all over the place like that. It felt more festival-y.
The first time that the festival was held at the Harvard Athletic Complex, a big change over the previous years at City Hall Plaza. All of a sudden, it's much more wide open, it's on grass, and of course it rained for 3 days. By the end of it, I remember to get up to the stage, you were walking through mud, which people didn't seem to care all that much. I mean, you slap on a poncho and then you go see your favorite band, you know, you deal.
I'd love to see Mumford & Sons come back. They played in this thing a few years ago when it was over on City Hall Plaza, and they don't always come through here. So that's a great example of a band that we might not have gotten if it weren't for the fact that they were part of a big festival like that. And it also gives a lot of bands that would have a hard time creating this kind of visibility in front of an audience on their own, a chance to get heard by a lot of people who may be there to hear 2 or 3 of the other acts and walk away thinking, that band's pretty good.
When people ask us, you know, what's your recommendation for people that are coming to the festival, it's always, you got to get there early and you got to go see a bunch of bands you've never heard of before. That was a great festival. If you look at that lineup now, so many of those acts have gone on to, you know, great success, like Kendrick Lamar and Vampire Weekend and Major Lazer and Solange. That, you know, that's part of the fun of looking back at these old posters, is some of the acts who we booked for early in the day, you know, how over the last couple of years they really become superstars.